Bonjour, comment tu t'appelles? Croissant. J'adore. Don't really know what that means, but I'm learning French because, well, everything's getting a little bit out of hand at the moment. The abandoned tiny house project, which if you can't remember, that was this very weird property that is right next to a river. I've actually made a little bit of progress on tracking down the owner on that. So that's starting to get quite interesting. But not only that, there's also the potential of me buying a house, and that is, well, hemorrhaging money. And I don't know if I really want to do it, because that would be not so much of a development, but it's more of saving a 200-year-old cottage, and nobody else is really prepared to renovate it. I mean, it's a 60 square metre cottage, and oh my days, has it got a story behind it. So if you're interested in me making a separate video about the abandoned tiny house and about this new potential project, just let me know and I'll make a video on that. But the reason I'm learning French is because I can't quite explain this, but I've always had a dream to buy 10 to 1,000 acres of land and disappear from civilization. Buy pit bikes, motocross bikes, quad bikes, get my brother and myself 2 off-roading RS6s, 2 Can-Am Maverick 2024s, so my friends and I can just destroy part of the nice woodland that I want to be buying and turn part of it into a racetrack. Now, the reason I've started thinking about France in terms of buying loads of land, well, 10 acres of land in England is an absolutely insane amount of money. Whereas when you get to the middle of France, maybe a little bit down south, the prices are actually unbelievable. You can buy a very lovely 60 square metre terraced house for €10,000. So what's that, £8,000 or something? The prices are crazy, and the reason why is these plots of land and these houses that are completely collapsed, well, they're usually in the middle of nowhere, and normally most people, they like to be close to a city or a town. Now what that means is in France there is going to be low demand for these properties. Where there's low demand, there's a low price. Interest rates are super high at the moment, therefore demand has gone down even lower. Then with everything that's going on in France and Europe with British people, Brexit and other things that I don't properly understand, it has put off a lot of English people. Therefore the demand has gone down even lower. Then there's a lot of British people who had holiday homes in Spain, Italy, France, wherever in Europe. And because of Brexit, and because they don't have residency in these places, they can only go there for a certain number of days in a year, which has basically messed up their retirement plans. And what that has meant is there's a load of British people just chucking up their renovation projects, their holiday homes, and some of these price cuts are like nothing I've ever seen. One of my favourite properties that I've seen recently was a very small 3-bedroom house 40 minutes above Monaco, so a pretty unbelievable location, and that has had a price cut from 380,000 to 120,000 because the demand has gone down so much. Now, not to sound too much like a hedge fund vulture, but this sort of situation creates pretty amazing opportunities. Another thing that I've learned since researching all about property in France is that the French don't like renovation projects. They don't really like old houses. In fact, I think it's an overwhelming majority just buy new builds, and therefore that means the demand has gone down even more. For me, who wants to buy a holiday house, these opportunities are getting really hard for me to keep passing up. Now, obviously, this is dream factory stuff, and this is, for me, something that I've been dreaming about for a very long time. Some of you might remember from previous videos that in 2020, was it, that I managed to get a Swiss passport, and what that allows me to do is have access to the whole of Europe, meaning that I can live anywhere. I've been asked quite a few times what happened to buying a house in Switzerland, and to be honest with you, Switzerland is beautiful, it's amazing, cannot recommend the country enough, it's great. The issue is the price for anything in that place makes me feel incredibly unwell. You're paying 200 grand for a shed. I can't do that, especially when you can be in the south of France and get 5 acres with 2 houses on it for €50,000. And from that skiing trip that I did in Switzerland, France, and where else did I go? Italy and Spain. I didn't do skiing in Spain, I just went to go build a bar in Spain. There was a lot of side adventures on that skiing trip. I spent so much time working as well, which is another massive aspect to this, is these properties at the moment that I'm looking at in France. If you don't have a business that has location freedom, you're going to find it really challenging. The jobs in France and Italy and everywhere are where the cities and towns are. Yes, you can get the small, slow village life jobs if you want, but that is most definitely going to have quite a big impact in your paycheck. Whereas for me, and my whole vision of the setup that I've always dreamt of when I was planning to leave my day job was I needed to establish a business, which means that I can make money from anywhere in the world. And yeah, I still can't really believe that I was turning down going skiing on certain days to just work. But I guess that does show that I really do enjoy what I do, because skiing's pretty fun. And that's also another reason why I kind of got put off the whole Switzerland buying a chalet idea is, one, the money, and two, snow doesn't really care where you are. It'll just go wherever it wants. And I'd booked 2-month stay in Chamonix, which is known for unbelievable snow. The snow basically decided that I didn't really want to visit Chamonix and instead went to Italy, 180 centimetres in 48 hours. So you could buy a very nice chalet in Chamonix and then the snow never turns up. And that kind of created some fear of that happening. Like, imagine you've just paid the premium to live in one of the best ski resorts, and then the snow just isn't there, and you end up having to pay to travel and stay in Airbnbs in other countries where the snow is. So another bit of food for thought if this is a dream that you really want to achieve one day. My best thoughts of that holiday is what I really needed was an RS6 with the rear seats taken out, and I'd converted it into a van, and that would mean that I could chase the snow wherever it is in Europe in unbelievable times and then just sleep at the bottom of the lift, so you're first one there. I have not forgotten about the tiny house that I'm building right now. I cannot stress to you lot how enjoyable this build has been so far. It's the first time ever that I don't have a crippling interest rate threatening me every single month. Yeah, to be real with you lot, this is probably the first time in my life I've ever felt myself breathing. For the years that I was in London, I felt like I had a ton of bricks on my chest all the time. Compare that to now. I was chatting to the postman for like 15 minutes the other morning. I don't think that's ever happened before. And also, people are quite a lot nicer outside of London. There's a lot more what I call real people than the Arabellas, the Annabellas, the Citronellas, Patronellas, that lot. Isn't Citronella for mosquitoes? There's definitely some girls in Fulham called Citronella, 100%. And also, in case you're some person fully in the rat race and you're feeling stressed and you don't really know what you're doing with your life, you get back from your 9 to 5, you park your car and you just sit in the car for like 15 minutes just contemplating what on earth you're doing. Trust me when I say I've been there. Little and often consistent action towards creating a business that's going to get you out of your 9 to 5, or maybe you don't want to own your own business, you just want to find a job that you actually don't mind working overtime in. That is out there. I was chatting to someone the other day who's not a farmer, it's more of like a grain specialist. It's proper diddly squat farm shop type thing. And we were chatting and you could genuinely see that this person wanted to spend their day in fields doing this. That's all out there. And I promise you, if you were like me in a 9 to 5 that you despised and you're doing it only for money, it's a very weird feeling when you get out of it, because it truly does feel like a ton of bricks has been lifted off my chest. It really is like you're breathing again. I watched a bumblebee for about 25 minutes the other day. That's never happened before. It's actually really interesting watching bees because they're a lot more clumsy than you think. They fly into things quite a lot, but they seem to be really liking the lavender at the tiny house. And that is also why progress might have halted a little bit on the tiny houses. I get distracted by a lot of things at the moment, but I'm actually in a very good mood today because I saved £1,200 on my order for the timber for the first layer of the cladding system on the walls and for the warm deck roof. Now, if you can't remember, a warm deck roof goes plywood, membrane, insulation, plywood, EPDM. I'm pretty sure I ordered the right things. I needed 27 sheets of plywood, 20 odd sheets of OSB board, Tyvek house wrap, which is like a breathable membrane. I also got a load of 20 centimetre screws, which also cost a pretty aggressive amount. Oh yeah, insulation. I got 11 sheets of 120mm Celotex PIR insulation board, and that creates the sandwich for the warm deck roof. Got it all for 1,600 quid or something, which I'm pretty happy with. And that is bringing the grand total for every single thing that I've built so far and all of this order to around 3,500, 3,600 quid. It's also looking like there's pretty decent weather over the next week, which means that I'm going to spend quite a lot of time getting on with the tiny house and trying to get it as quickly into a waterproof shell as possible.